I'm going to call to order the March 30th, 2026 budget work session. Ms. Boucher, will you call the roll?
Ms. Campbell is not here at the moment. Mr. Dubois?
Here.
Ms. Hastings?
Here.
Ms. Higgins?
Here.
Ms. Meeker?
Here.
Ms. Minot?
Here.
Ms. Sadowski?
Here.
Ms. Walsh?
Here.
And I am here. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. And then I am going to move that we start in non-public session to discuss negotiations, personnel matters, consideration of the acquisition, sale, or lease of real or personal property, and consideration by the school board of entering into a student or pupil tuition contract, and advice from legal counsel. Is there is, and for the public, we need to get some answers to these questions before we can proceed on some of the other things. Is there a second?
Second. Sorry.
Second by Ms. Boucher. This is a roll call vote.
Ms. Campbell is not here at the moment. Mr. Dubois?
Yes.
Ms. Hastings?
Yes.
Ms. Higgins?
Yep.
Ms. Meeker?
Yep.
Ms. Minot?
Yes.
Ms. Sadowski?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh? And I am a yes.
Yes. We're going to try and keep this to under a half hour, and we will be back. Motion to come out of non-public. Moved by Ms. Higgins. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Meeker. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? A motion to seal the minutes. Moved by Ms. Higgins. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Hastings. This is a roll call vote. Ms. Boucher, will you call the roll?
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Dubois?
Yes.
Ms. Hastings? Yep. Ms. Higgins?
Yes.
Ms. Meeker?
Yep.
Ms. Minot?
Yes.
Ms. Sadowski?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
And we just lost Mr. Dunn.
He's gonna go print out the new.
Right. So before we get to making motions, are there questions that board members have that are still outstanding that we should discuss? I have one. The Abbott Downing currently does not qualify for Title I funds,
That
right?
is correct.
And they will not have a tutoring position next year.
That is correct.
Okay. And in the past, this board, in order to maintain some equity between all the elementary schools, has funded a tutor at Abbott Downing in the
Yep.
years when it does not qualify for Title I.
that is
funds.
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
But that position is
Current-
not currently in this
Currently, it's
budget.
not in the budget.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have any research or any statistics that show whether it's a necessary?
They use it as part of the MTSS supports or academics. So it's a tier 1 heavy to tier 2 intervention for students. It could be based on their testing scores when they're. It's not iReady. I'm blanking the assessment they use at the younger level, but it could be based on assessment scores. It could be based on student performance in the classroom. But they try and do a targeted real-time intervention, pushing into the class for some of it, or if it need be, doing it during a time that wouldn't pull them out of their core content areas.
And what is the cost for that, do we know?
Roughly, without knowing the individual or if they need benefits or whatnot, somewhere in the vicinity between, I would estimate between 33,000 and 40.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Boucher.
Liz?
Looking at the Concord High School enrollment projections when we went based on classes,
Mhm.
my question that I still don't quite know is what courses, the names of the courses, or how many courses would be eliminated for the year due to staffing reduction versus low enrollment?
So-
When you talked about low enrollment, would those classes just not
So,
otherwise?
when we have low enrollment in classes, we don't run them. Typically, the cutoff is 15. There are some areas we make exceptions. AP courses tend to be one of them. We do get neighboring districts that capitalize on some of our AP courses we offer, and the fact we offer the assessment as well. So we've been able to offset that cost of running it at a small number. But if there was, for example, if there was a unified art class that only had 7 students sign up, we wouldn't run that class. Instead, we would go to and maybe we have larger requests of a different course within that department. Let's say there were 35 kids signed up and we could only take 20 of them safely in a class. We'd run 2 sections of that versus running a section of 7 of something else. Does that make sense?
Yes, so are there any courses that are not going to be offered because of a staffing reduction then?
No. The courses that are in the course request were what was offered based on student requests. So there is not a course that's not going to be offered because of a reduction in staff. What you are going to see because of reduction of staff is some of the class sizes go up. So we're still offering the course, instead of offering it at a section of 17, we're offering it at a section of maybe 25.
I thought, and you and I had this conversation earlier today, that some of the art classes at the high school wouldn't be offered because of the art reduction.
So some of the art classes at the high school currently, they wouldn't meet the threshold to run them. However, historically, we've consolidated a couple of the advanced things, and we have maybe run an AP art and an advanced art and and art ELO all together. So very individualized programming. So that's something that we wouldn't have the option of offering with the reduction in art. So that is an accurate statement. Yep. And in the past, what we have done is we've offered something like that, kind of brought the groups of what I would say high-performing, high-interest art students together, working on their portfolios, and the teacher has differentiated what they're doing there. And if we needed to, that teacher also taught a course or two outside of the art department to give them that full FTE.
Okay, so for an example, on this enrollment projection, metalwork and jewelry 2 only had 2 students. So that
Correct.
would normally not be offered because of low enrollment.
No.
But if there were another staff member, that staff member could do metalwork and, I don't know, sculpture or something all
You would
together so
you
all
could-
the students
You
could.
put them together, you would, the staff, yeah, we have talented art teachers, the staff would put them together and come up with a way that they differentiate for the students who are interested in the metalworking, the sculpture, or if it was advanced art or working on a portfolio project. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And I feel like in one of our early conversations, when we were looking at some of these positions, you had commented specifically on the arts position that might create
Yeah.
roadblocks
Yeah.
elsewhere for students.
So as you look at some of our reductions, when you reduce at the high school, the way it is, if you reduce in a core content area, you have to have a place for students to go, right? You have to have a balance. And the way you balance that is by having the elective courses, the music, the arts, the technology. So if you cut too much in one area and at the same time cut another area, you end up with students who have 3 study halls versus a full schedule. So you always try and balance that. And so the art's one of those areas that's historically been a tool we've used at the high school to balance when we've had large cuts, social studies, English, or science. So.
Thank you. Are there other questions that board members have of Ms. Hastings?
Could we take a look at the elementary class size projections with the elimination of those 6 positions?
Yep.
Can you bring that up on the screen, Mr. Dunn?
Would you like to see it with no reduction, or would you like to see it with
With the
proposed?
reductions. With the proposed reductions,
Yep.
please.
Wrong room.
Always our nightmare in the other, when we're doing it.
And these numbers are as of December,
December 2nd.
and so we've gotten more updated enrollment numbers, right? Some of them have
Yep,
shifted
some
up
of
or
them
down.
have shifted up and down.
And the kindergarten numbers are just based on this year's kindergarten
Yeah.
classes, right?
We essentially, because you can't really tell the preschool numbers that are going to come up to kindergarten because it's not universal preschool, we just essentially level, what is it, the word I'm looking for, enrolled kindergarten.
Just scroll it back down so I can see which grade levels we're looking at.
Oh, yeah, sure. I see what you mean. Right?
Yeah, yeah, there.
I do have a question.
Yes,
on
Ms.
this.
Boucher?
So Was it last year, there was a increase in enrollment for kindergartners in September, October time that was maybe unexpected. If we're at a higher end, especially for the kindergarten, and we need to, it increases at that time unexpectedly, what kind of support do we have in those classrooms?
We have the superintendent's contingency fund that's earmarked for staffing, essentially for the purpose of our class size policy. This year, we had to employ an instructional tutor at Krista McAuliffe School because we were getting right up to the numbers in kindergarten.
And how many tutors or another additional teacher could the principal fund staff?
So the
should this be?
superintendent's contingency is made up of 2 full-time teachers, 1 ed assistant, 1 program assistant, and 1 tutor.
There's money for those.
Yep.
That's what we budget.
Yep.
That's how it's made up of.
So as long as we don't get a huge influx, we should be able to cover if we needed to say that we needed to consider another teacher or instructional tutor, we should be able to fund
Now,
that.
if we saw an enrollment in September and October, let's just say, and we needed to add another teacher in October for the budget in October, would there be sufficient time to increase staff for
So we can adjust the budget in October. It requires 7 votes. Presumably, we could adjust it before October with 7 votes too, right? I don't know.
Yeah, we've done it in June. If we
Anytime
have a
up
year-end balance
to
and,
when the tax bills are finalized. So if in August, Tim came to us and said, we have 50 more kindergarteners, we could adjust the
Anyway.
budget, return money to his contingency fund. I think what happened last year in part is they don't like to split classes once the class, so when a bunch of kids enrolled in October, they're not going to split, too many, they don't want to necessarily split off all the kindergarten classes, but yes.
just want to make it clear to the
Over the
public.
summer, we could certainly look at enrollment and make some
need be, make
adjustments
adjustments.
if needed be, yes.
Traditionally, hasn't there been a hesitation to do that, though, because the students have already met their teachers in move-up day, and then it's confusing for families and kids?
That's to Pam's point. Like typically they don't like to split once it happens.
Right.
But if it gets to a threshold at some point in time, we would have to make a decision and whatnot. But that's why this year we chose to go the route of adding an instructional tutor in the kindergarten class in order to not have to split.
But in August, we could
Yep.
look at it.
I see, my concern is just that looking at these numbers, at least in the K to 3, we are on or above our target median. And it's just concerning. I mean, it leaves no room for someone to move in, really.
I mean, but most of these numbers are very similar to what we have this year.
But now we're discussing, so should we have a motion?
I was gonna say, should we be
To
making a
second,
motion
to
to
make a
discuss
motion
this, or-
for a discussion?
If someone would like to make a motion, Ken, I think we can still discuss within this line. But if somebody would like to make a motion,
Or
Do you have a
I'm
motion
a little
to make?
confused about how
I
this
don't know, yeah. I'm
meeting
still
is
thinking.
structured, like, we're asking questions,
Yeah.
and then later we're gonna make motions and discuss?
It's gonna all just be for information gathering.
yeah.
Another question I have, though, is if, let's just say, a kindergarten classroom, there's going to be students that come in who may need a wheelchair, does that limit the number of students who then could make it more challenging to have more students in the classroom?
I mean, student needs are always, is something that's taken into consideration in the dynamics of a classroom. I don't know necessarily that a student who's wheelchair bound is going to prohibit us from, adding a student to the class or whatnot. I'd really have to consider the needs of the child to really make that answer.
Well, and I don't want to say the
Yeah.
needs of the child necessarily, but the classroom, like
Yeah.
with that, just in terms of space and having more children in the classroom,
I
too.
don't think that would be a driving
Okay.
factor
I
in
just- I had a
consideration.
a staff member.
And our classes are appropriately, hit the state minimum standards in class size so that they're appropriately ADA compliant.
I would just like to say, to Madeline's point, this is a work session. So questions that we have, discussions that we have, don't require a motion. If you have an intention to change something in the budget that we've posted, a motion is appropriate, and then we can discuss that motion on its merits. I would say tomorrow's our last day, so if you've got motions, I'm sure you've all been thinking about it. If you've got something you want to bring to make it official, I would say now's the time.
But before we get to motions, is there any other information that people have been waiting for, questions they have?
I do have one question.
Mr.
just looking at
Dublepoy.
the, chart here. So it looks like, if I'm looking at it and interpreting the numbers correctly, it looks like it's Beaver Meadow and the Krista McAuliffe School that are going to be impacted the most here in the change in class sizes. So I'm wondering about allocating of personnel or anything that could be due to kind of mitigate that or to try to even them out with the others.
We've done that before as well. I have a neighbor that taught for a lot of years at one school, and then based on the numbers and staff reductions in the summer, found out they were going to teach somewhere else. So those kinds of changes happen when the actual legit numbers come in. So if Beaver Meadow suddenly had way too many kindergarten students for the allocated teachers and other schools didn't, there would be a staff shift.
And just for your background, last year, we actually did reduce sections at Millbrook and Broken Ground, so they sort of got addressed last year, which might be why you're seeing it ADS and
Right,
Beaver
'cause
Meadow
they
and
weren't
Krista
addressed,
McAuliffe this year. So, because there were, I think it was, there were a lot of sections removed.
The short answer is yes. We would make accommodations for that.
And what we've done in the past, as my understanding too, is that when it happens and school has already started and we start to see an influx, we don't like to move students from where they are. So we try to add another additional adult, but that doesn't really address the idea of, K to 3, those are kind of essential years for patterns and development, and I hate to overstuff them so that they're not all getting the attention that they need at those very critical years. It's just a concern I have.
I share that concern.
Thank you.
We all do.
Any other questions?
I have a question about athletic fees.
Yep.
But it's
That's fine.
in a response to a draft motion,
Well,
so that's where
you
I'm
just-
all confused.
Just bring,
Okay.
Your
Some of
question.
us think it might make sense to increase athletic fees, but based on this response, I'm confused about
all right,
what
can
the
we bring
starting
it,
point
because
is.
this has not been this was an email request one member sent, so I think we should start at the beginning.
That's why I'm asking, how
Yep.
do you want me to ask this?
Just pose the question in regards to athletic fees, or were you looking for percentage raise, or was there a question in regards to athletic fees?
Can I?
Or what
can
would the
I- can I
impact be?
clarify?
I'm
So,
confused about this
in-
response.
In our budget book, on page 49, we have a line item for revenue, activity fees, school year programming. Fiscal year 26, 90,000, fiscal year 27, 90,000. I think Madeline might have some questions about if that is reflecting the district-wide fees.
Because if I just add
revenue.
up 2 sports that I know of at the middle school, that seems low, first of all, because I get to almost $24,000 just from soccer and track at the middle school. So it's hard for me to imagine that all the sports at the middle and high school only raise $90,000. And I realize that we have waivers and not everybody pays, and that's how it should be. But I'm also confused about what is charged at which level for what sport currently, because if we're talking about increasing 10%, like what's the starting point?
So it's $65 at the middle school for a
So
sport.
I can tell you that I've paid $85 for every sport that my daughter has done at the middle school this year. That's why I'm confused.
So the high school is 85. So at the middle school, I don't know. That's what my understanding. And then it's 385 for hockey.
Okay, I can forward you my receipts
Okay.
that I paid 85
I
for middle
just
school sports.
got, and maybe it's because they use the same platform, and it's supposed to be 65, because I will say that when I signed my child up, I got that it will be 85. So it might be because they're using one platform, and so the
Yeah.
difference in fees
So then I'm even
disappeared.
more confused how we only raise 90 between all
Would you
those
say that
sports.
that number is accurate? that we received in this last fiscal year, we received $90,000 in revenue for activities fees.
It'll probably, because waivers and all, it'll probably be a little shorter than 90, because you collect it 3 times a year. So like you said, if you did math for 2 sports, and
Approximately
that's
90,
one.
okay.
Yeah, it's approximate.
Okay.
And then you have gate receipts.
Wait, are you collecting 93 times? Is it?
No,
No,
that's
no.
the total for the whole year, but you have
Almost
3
30, 30 and
seasons.
30
Right.
almost. And
No, we get it.
it
That's
doesn't
what
break
we're
down
saying.
that easy.
It doesn't seem like a lot of money.
No.
not.
Knowing that like it's 85 per.
Right. And I think this is part of a bigger conversation that we've been sort of having on the side, which is, you know, we are having a really hard time like getting the tax rate down to something that feels palatable. And so how do we share the load? And that means possibly coming to the table with ideas for increasing fees in all the areas where we can possibly collect more revenue, knowing that we're still coming in way under what private industry is offering for sports, what, you know, tuition for daycare is, you know, like, these are all ideas that I feel like we owe it to ourselves and the community to discuss what can we do? And if it sounds like maybe we can really come up in activity fees and still be reasonable and still be equitable because we have waivers, then that's a motion that we can bring tonight to add revenue so that we can maybe save some FTE for some critical functions in the district. Does that make sense?
So, but 90,000 is what we collect, so that's what comes into the books, whether we're not.
And I think there's another number there, gate receipts, that's 12 grand, so that's what people pay to go to sporting events.
So, other questions? Would anyone like to make a motion? We can start with motions.
Do we want to start with an easy one?
Yeah, if you don't say it, I'm
Eh,
not with
Just
that one.
raise your hand and you shall be recognized. Miss Minot. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Miss Meeker.
I was like, oh,
The M's got me.
I move that we direct the district to increase activity fees by 10% for a budget revenue increase of $9,000.
I second that motion.
Discussion. Moved by Ms. Meeker, second by Ms. Minot. It looks like the administration had a proposal back on that.
Oh, yeah, we had put in, $5 for each of the 2 sports, and then we did go a little higher on the hockey, just because, and we spend about $44,000 in ice time for that, so it nowhere near covers. And usually people tell me, well, that's a gift from, because my kid's in hockey, and I spent $2,500 to join tournaments plus travel, but I didn't know whether you wanted to.
Where are they paying $2,500 and how do I get in
Hey,
on
no,
that?
no,
And I think to this point that even if we're talking a 10% increase, we are coming in way under. And I want everything to be provided for our students, but I also understand that parents, I think, can reasonably absorb an increase in activity fees, especially given how it compares to other fees. That being said, my 10% was an offer to get us started. If somebody thinks that we can adjust that number to be more suitable, I open it.
So what the administration proposing is a little under 6% for general sports, for high school athletics, which middle school athletics may already be paying. And
Secret revenue.
about 26% for hockey. For
And you feel like that would get us to the number that's been proposed, sort of like an overall 10, like.
and that would raise how much?
I'll have that for you. I didn't go through that
Okay.
exercise, but,
Would you say it's at least 9,000?
oh, yeah. Yeah.
Miss,
So for folks at home and people in general, if a child receives free or reduced lunch, the same discounts or elimination of the fees are applied to students. So if a parent can't afford the fee to begin with, the change won't impact those families. My question is, do we provide that same opportunity for hockey fees, or is that different because of the ice time?
My understanding and my experience is it's provided across the board.
Right.
And oftentimes what happens is booster clubs step up to cover the fees for families.
I just want to make sure that we're doing what we need to do without eliminating a small group of people.
Further discussion?
I
Ms.
just-
Campbell.
I'm so sorry. I didn't
That's
raise my
okay.
hand.
And can you guys reverse so for the TV?
Oh.
And for me?
So
And for me?
There we go. Apologies, this is a silly question, but we're voting on 10% versus the responses.
Yeah, no, we need a new motion.
Okay, we need a motion. And I don't feel comfortable, like, I agree we should do this, but without knowing if we're actually charging 65 or 85, I don't know if I
You like
can vote
clarification on the
accurately.
fees?
Yeah,
That's why I prefer the motion,
yeah.
because regardless of what
It's
we're
10%
charging, we're
across the
increasing
board.
it by 10%.
Right.
I'm on board with that.
With
Okay.
continuing to do waivers
Yep.
and needs-based.
That would mean hockey would come in less, so we may need to separate that, but.
To be clear, we want the revenues from activity fees to go up by 10%.
However
They can achieve that however they want.
That's perfect.
That's right.
Not exactly the current fee plus 10%.
Okay.
The total revenues from activities fees should go up by 10%. How that's achieved, I think they have the flexibility to figure that
That
out.
is so helpful, thank you. Perfect.
Ms. Higgins?
Also, do we have more accurate information on how much money comes in and what we actually make? Because just doing quick math in my head, with the number of students I know that just do track and field and cross-country in the fall alone, to me is.
I can't get that.
I can't imagine from 3 seasons of sports and a large number of students that do sports that we're only making 90,000. So I would love to have some more specific information on that if
Sure.
possible.
Agreed.
Doesn't affect whether the 10% increase,
Yeah.
but the $65 versus paying 85, all those things.
I would love to know like the number of students that do each sport, the price they are charged, and what percentage get waivers. Something so that we can get to how do we get to that total amount.
Right. This may be some additional long-term revenue planning that we can do.
Right.
Right?
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We are open for further motions. Ms. Meeker?
I move that we direct the district to reduce the general supply budget by 10% for a budget expenditure reduction of $20,863.
Seconded.
Moved by Ms. Meeker, second by Ms. Sadowski. Discussion.
I bring this motion, just so everybody knows, I sent out my motions ahead of time because there are many. It's because I really want to get as much as we can. We're going to squeeze that stone so that we can start discussing how we can fit FTEs back in. And I think in order to have that discussion, we need to be doing our due diligence in all areas of the budget. So this is another proposal that is a 10% reduction and a $20,000 expenditure reduction.
Is this for any specific expenditures, or just they decide what to cut?
Exactly, this is it. So any one of us could go through the line items and pull out $20,000 worth. I do have an alternative motion that does that. I think that they know better than me.
Right, yeah, right. I
And
agree.
so I think that if we really, like, for instance, if we really think that, like, the boosters can pay for the hockey goals that RMS needs, like, I don't know if that's how granular we need to get.
Right. No, we
but-
shouldn't.
But they
That's
can go out.
micromanaging.
What we would do, we'd work with the building administration to determine the best place to find these.
It's mostly for public clarification.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. We are open for further motions.
A motion or could it be something to look at?
I would like, if you have something you would like to discuss.
Yeah, I'd like to discuss the lunch fees, current lunch fees. How far over are we on those at this point? Do we know? How?
You
what-
mean the deficit?
It
Yeah.
runs about 300,000.
Well, for operations, you're talking about the lunch debt.
Right.
I think we're probably in the high 70s now.
High 70s at this
Yeah.
point in the year?
Yep.
And was it 90 last year? Is that
Yeah, 90.
right, about 90?
90s.
Do we have any plans, do we have any, have we thought of everything we can think of to collect that money?
Well, I will say that every year I'm concerned that we shut off the payment portal too early, that it gets shut off on June 30th and I think we should keep the window open and continue collecting debts through the beginning of the next school year. And that creates some accounting issues, and creates some roadblocks for our closing our books and doing our audit, but I still think we need to figure out how to keep that open longer. I think, Ms. Boucher?
Is there any way we could create a payment plan like a college does, where you pay up front and then you would have one-time fee? You wouldn't keep paying fees for every credit card? And then there could even be a way to donate
Right, that's what
in that meal plan. So I may buy the meal plan for my kids. Maybe I send them, they don't get lunch all those times. That'd be a win for us.
Yep.
It wouldn't, for me, maybe that's not that big of a deal, but that would help cover costs for people who wouldn't actually, if I send my kid even though I bought the plan, but sent with a home lunch one day, then that meal that I paid for would cover costs
Maybe from somebody else
for
that
someone else
didn't-
who didn't or cannot pay.
We can look at that. Kim?
But 90,000 that's a teaching position in some cases, so.
The lunch debt is a bummer.
Yeah.
It's a huge bummer.
But it's not just our problem.
No.
That this is a national problem.
I'm going to make a motion to remove the 3 vacant permanent sub positions from the budget. Second by Ms. Higgins. Moved by me, second by Ms. Higgins. Discussion?
Do you want to kick us off?
These are vacant positions. The administration, I think, will have to be creative around how we use permanent subs and moving them around the district, but I would rather eliminate vacant positions than fill positions, because we're going to be doing enough of that. And I also think that that's all I have to say. Go ahead, Ms. Higgins.
So historically speaking, time to get up. Our elementary schools have had one permanent sub, and I don't have off the top of my head how many were at the middle school and high school. I believe 2 at Concord High when I taught there. And for those at home who are wondering what a permanent sub does, basically they're counted on well-known staff member in the school who often goes in and subs for teachers when they're absent, or subs for a school nurse when they're absent, not being a nurse, or subs for anyone that might be missing on a certain day. There are days when no one's missing, and they're given, well, very few days where no one's missing, but given other tasks. After COVID, when absence rates were so high, both teacher and staff-wise, that number was increased. I believe it was through ESSER funds. It was a necessary movement at the time. This is an easy way to eliminate FTEs without eliminating so quickly classroom teachers. So will it put a strain on the elementary schools? Yes, because we've learned to count on these 2 people in our schools every day. Are there creative ways that we as a board and our district administrators and teachers will create to mitigate the impact felt? Absolutely. There's a lot of ways that we can address the stress this might cause much more easily than, perhaps eliminating a first grade teacher or something like that. So it sounds terrible. Oh no, we're eliminating these subs. It's actually, in my opinion, as an educator, a reasonable way to mitigate loss in other areas. So that's my little spiel.
And I guess I would like to maybe do a friendly amendment to that to increase it, not starting with the 3 that are vacant and adding 7 more.
It's a separate.
You can.
That is,
Yeah, why
okay.
don't
You want me to do it as a separate?
yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just looking at that, we've got 2 in every elementary school, 3 at the high school, and 3 at the middle school. That's a lot of of extra people.
All right, well, the motion on the table is for the 3
Yeah.
vacant
Okay,
permanent subs.
all right,
So
well,
let's
I'll do
vote
that,
on
yeah, all right,
and
let's
then-
do that one,
I'll
and then I'll
second
make,
it.
thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion passes. Ms. Hastings, do you have a
Yes,
motion?
I would like to make a motion that we limit permanent substitutes to 1 at each elementary school and 2 at the middle school and 2 at the high school.
Second.
Can you just repeat the numbers you had? Limit
One-
permanent subs to.
One permanent substitute at each elementary school,
Okay,
2 at the middle school, 2 at the high school.
thank you.
And Ms. Higgins, second. I guess one of the concerns that I have is that, from what I understand, it's easier to cover teacher absences with other staff at the middle and high school. So I would be more inclined to say we could go down further at the middle and the high school and keep some additional floaters for the elementary schools, because we do know that, we have a lot of absences. And, maybe these permanent subs are floating around between the schools and not just assigned to one school every day. But Superintendent, do you have thoughts?
I think we have, and we've in the past used various systems to cover for classes at the middle and high school, and we can continue to look at that as part of the solution. What I would say is at the elementary level, it gets a little more complex when it comes to providing the coverage. At the high school, you may have a block off, you may be available, or we may have other personnel that's available to cover. But when you get down to the elementary level, teachers are on more with their students, and it becomes a dispersing of the students, so to speak. So it's not that easy. If we don't have the permanent sub, they could be placed in another teacher's classroom or whatnot and split up. So I think it's easier to have the staffing on hand at the lower level, and it makes it easier for coverage standpoint. The idea of having permanent subs available across the district, as needed, perhaps both. If they weren't needed at the elementary, they could be utilized at the middle or high if needed. So I think that would make sense to have some on, for lack of better words, staff on reserve to assist where needed in the district.
Do we have any statistics on how often the 2 are both used at the elementary schools? Is it daily, unique? Because that wasn't my understanding is that the second position at the elementary school came because of COVID and ESSER funds, and then it just got absorbed.
I think I know there was an expansion on what we had for permanent subs in the district around that time because of the protocols and procedures we had to adhere to. I know some of those were reduced. I don't know if they're reduced across all schools at all levels. So I can't answer that with certainty.
Do we want to perhaps table this motion and then give the superintendent until tomorrow to answer
Yep,
it with
I'd
more
be
I
certainty?
can come back with more
That'd be
information tomorrow.
So move,
I would move that we table my motion to reduce the number of permanent subs until tomorrow when we can have more information.
I'll second that.
I do have a question regarding that. Would it be appropriate for us to suggest a total amount for the district and then they utilize, or is that not how this works?
we could certainly do that. Tabling motion takes precedence, so let's vote on the tabling and then we can discuss
Okay.
if you have a different suggestion.
Ms. Higgins, was that your second?
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. So that amendment is tabled until tomorrow. In terms of yours, you could make another motion if you'd like. I would like to sort of hear the answers at how often we use the and so that we could get,
Yeah, that's fine.
so, I am going to make a motion to remove 3 program assistant positions, which is something that we heard could be done from building administrators, the bottom of tier 5. if you have your.
Seconded.
Moved by me, seconded by Ms. Sadowski. Discussion?
Do you want to give some context?
There are program assistant positions that the principals of the building suggested that we could eliminate.
Originally grant funded. and
Right.
The funding
Yep.
is sunset.
Right. Discussion? All those in favor?
Okay.
Oh, did you have
Sorry,
something?
I will be opposed. It's okay.
Okay.
I'm opposed.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Motion passes. I would like to make a motion that we add a tutoring position back to ADS.
I'll second that,
What number is that, do you know?
It's not on here.
because it, yeah, it was unfunded because they're
Can
not
we know
Title
what
I.
that costs? What was that?
Approximately $40,000 is what we were told.
Depending, not knowing the individual, not knowing if they're taking benefits. Michelle, would you,
It would depend on the hours to the
yeah.
position.
Is it 6.5 or 7? And if FICA, New Hampshire retirement and stuff comes into play. If you were to,
I would think that $40,000 would be
Cover.
an approximation.
yeah.
What is this tutoring position for?
Title I
So,
meeting.
well, in the past, it's been utilized when grant funded as like Title I reading tutor, but it could also be utilized depending on the needs of Abbott Downing for a math tutor. Essentially, it's their tiered system of academic intervention.
And all the other elementaries have this position because they're Title I funded, and Abbott Downing does not get Title I funds. And so in the past, we've backfilled it, and so I wanted to bring that up for discussion. So, discussion?
Mr. Dunn was sharing with me, and this would be, if this was 7-hour FICA included, it would be roughly, if total costs, 7 hours FICA benefits were selected, the tutor would come in at $55,390.10.
Single plan only.
Remind me, they currently do not have one.
Because they don't receive
Right,
Title
it's the
I.
Title I.
But they have one, we just paid it in the general fund, didn't we?
Wait, so they do we currently have someone employed in this role at Abbott Downing?
They do not. They've utilized individuals who are hired for other positions in this role, but we do not currently in our budget right
Okay.
now have a title, not a title, a tutor for Abbott Downing School. It's not in our budget currently.
Okay.
Can we just
And where the other positions they've utilized may
Yeah.
have been reduced in other places.
Can we just review for the public how that funding for those tutors in those elementary schools
Free and reduced lunch. Yeah.
for
Yeah, yeah, so Title I schools would have a certain percentage of students that are on free or reduced lunch, and those schools receive funds to supplement reading and/or math instruction. So,
Barb, pull your mic.
yeah. So a percentage change doesn't necessarily change the reality of the reading and math needs of the students in the school. It simply says to the government, this school doesn't qualify for funds. So we've always managed to, on creative staffing, gets these kids what they need, but it's coming from somewhere else. So something else is being minimized to cover what all the other schools have. You know, and an influx of families might change the funding formula, but
Or people doing that free and reduced
Yes,
lunch
and that was my
application.
Yeah.
point. The whole thing is
Yes.
to making sure that everyone, all families complete the free and reduced
Right.
application so that we can see if we can get more funds. This is money
right, that
from the
helps
federal
those kids.
government.
Yeah,
ADS and RMS have tended to go off and on,
yeah.
or ADS in the high school, I think. Further discussion?
Who seconded that?
Sarah.
Ms. Sadowski.
Okay.
Wait,
Didn't you? Oh, no.
no,
No.
I did not.
No, that
Oh,
was my
Ms.
last
Higgins,
motion.
sorry.
I apologize, it's a silly question, but has anyone heard anything from public or from the schools directly regarding,
It was in a letter we received from the principal of the
Right.
school over the weekend. Yeah.
but other than that, we haven't?
No.
Okay.
I will say that we've heard from staff the benefit of the position in the past, and knowledge that it wasn't going to be in the budget this year, but it's been a select few staff that have in the past worked directly with the intervention type support staff.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention?
Me.
You're opposed? Okay. Motion passes. We are open for further motions.
Do we need a motion to include tier 2?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a motion that all positions identified with a yes as of today's date in this table, that those adjustments be included in the budget.
And
I
that,
second that.
I would like to see us remove item 41 before we move tier 2 completely.
I agree with that.
Can I motion that first?
Sure.
Okay, I motion that we
It's a
remove
substitute
the
motion.
position 41 FTE.
well, you're moving to amend their motion.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm moving to amend the motion to remove position 41 FTE RMS art for a total of $124,923
Is there a
from the
second?
tier 2.
I second.
Thanks, Jen.
Moved by Ms. Sadowski, second by Ms. Campbell. So the amendment is up for discussion.
The original motion is to include all the things.
Is-
Everything
Yes.
that's in tier 2.
Correct.
And we had not, because that's not in the current budget.
Correct, got it.
I mean, the other night we saw more than half the people who came out in defense of the arts, and I think we need to honor what our community is telling us.
I also think in the spirit of, who knows what's happening with open enrollment, but I think our commitment to the arts is something that is a draw for outside community members, and I think if we stay committed to the arts, we may see people come in should we have the open enrollment at some point.
We had received from RMS some information on what class sizes would be for all of the specials. Art would go from 17 to 25, health would go from 18 to 25, PE from 16 to 25, tech, STEM from 20 to 25. I can see the argument where that makes some, for art classes where they need space, and I've been in the art rooms in RMS, there's not a lot of space. So I understand the point of your motion. I'm not as worried about PE or health classes. I did have a question about the STEM classes as well, because I don't know that there's a,
We didn't cut any.
we didn't cut any positions there.
We didn't.
I would like to make a gentle point too, that the art wing has been particularly impacted by the RMS struggles. I mean, they definitely have been patient with that space as we've worked out a new building, so.
Could I just get clarification? I thought you said CMS art when.
RMS.
It was RMS, okay.
Because that's in tier 2.
Yeah.
So my only concern, if we add this position back in, is at the expense of what? Like if we're gonna add in an art teacher, I would prioritize the high school art teacher. And when we see middle school classes that are smaller than our kindergarten classes, I would prioritize adding back in elementary classroom teachers. And so I absolutely support having this position, but if it's this or something else, I have a higher weight on some of the other positions that I want to see added back in.
Ms. Sadowski.
I totally appreciate your perspective. I don't think we have to be as absolute, like, as if we do this, not that. Like, I think we need to take into account community feedback in this particular area specifically, rather than operate from like a scarcity mindset. That being said, I think there are loads of places where we could cut that we have started to do tonight. And I'm confident we can find those savings to honor the community feedback that we've heard.
Ms. Meeker?
I would also, I'm going to reflect Madeline's comments here, which is that we're going to make tough decisions on FTEs that, from my perspective, are open to restoration in the future when we have money. again, and what my concern is the gap that, for example, the high school art department may experience in the immediate future. And so when we're getting down to tough choices and we're talking about priorities and we're talking about community feedback, Second Start was our number one.
Not on Wednesday, it wasn't, compared to art.
Okay, so art, Second Start, there were a lot of positions that were being advocated for, the AP positions. So I can appreciate that everyone has the thing that means a lot to them based on that community feedback. For me, the high school position has priority.
I actually don't think it has to be a high school or middle school. I think we need both, in light of what we heard from the
I don't
community.
think reinstating this means we're not going to address, that's a different tier, different discussion. I don't think,
Ms. Boucher?
yeah.
I just want to, can you just clarify what you meant about the art wing of the?
Oh, that they've been really paid. It was one of the areas of Runlet that has seen a lot of leaks. Its footprint is not amenable to things like wheelchair footprints.
Okay.
That and the science room as well. There are certain areas of Runlet that I think have borne the brunt of the much needed repairs. And in my opinion, I have heard from students that the art wing particularly felt like they were bearing disproportionate impacts of an aging building.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you. And yes.
Thinking back to Wednesday, I know that there was a overwhelming amount of support just for the arts in general. However, there was one individual teacher. I'm not sure if I can say his name or not.
I would prefer you.
Not, yeah.
But there was one individual teacher who had the brunt of the advocacy there, and if I'm not mistaken, he was in the high school.
No,
He was the
no.
He was
was
middle
middle
school.
Oh, he was.
That's correct. He's middle school.
But
All right.
I think we don't want to be, we're not voting on individual people, right? Because there's like weird knock-on effects. And so I've been trying to figure out some of these things. And then as soon as I think I have it figured out, I realize there's somebody else somewhere else that has a more seniority that's going to create this weird domino effect. So I do want to be somewhat, we shouldn't be,
We shouldn't be talking about individuals because it's, yes.
I do want to appreciate your point about class sizes around 17. I mean, that is the ideal that we're aiming for kindergarten.
For
But I say
kindergarten.
we need kindergarten and we need art. I think we can do both. I think we've heard from the community that there's an appetite for that.
Further discussion?
I think we need to remember that we're already at 12%. Our goal was a 5% tax rate increase, and we're still hovering at 12. We've made minor changes here that I'm not sure have even gotten us to another 1% reduction. And so, I mean, we knew the FTs were going to be the hard thing to talk about, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to be mindful that if our goal is to reduce that tax rate, this is it.
Yeah. Duly noted, but we did just come up with 150,000 in cuts that we weren't anticipating.
well, and I do want to point out that tier 2 is 791,758,061 that are not
Additional.
counted towards that
Correct.
12%, right? That brings us almost a whole percent down.
And I do want to caution.
More than a whole percent.
To say to the board and to also caution the public that we will be meeting again tomorrow. And in between, Mr. Dunn will put all of these things into a spreadsheet, and some decisions may end up getting revisited because we say, oh, we wanted to do this and we can't afford it. So, you know, these are preliminary votes, but, and I think it's important, and I think once we see where everything is, we will be making final votes tomorrow, and there will be opportunities tomorrow as well to make additional motions to take things in or out as we go. That being said, we have a motion on the table, Ms. Sadowski's amendment to Ms. Minot's motion. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye. We're voting for our own motion.
We're voting on Ms., I'll do
Your
it.
amendment.
We're voting on Ms. Sadowski's
amendment.
amendment.
Could you reread the motion?
Yep.
It is to remove
Number 41.
Number 41.
position number 41, the RMS art teacher from
From
the tier 2 reductions.
Consideration tonight for the tier 2 reductions. I mean,
So,
So do we call for a roll call vote then if we're having difficulty?
oh yeah, you would like a roll call vote. Okay,
I would
Ms.
like a roll
Boucher.
call vote, please.
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Dubois?
Yes.
Ms. Hastings?
No.
Ms. Higgins?
Yes.
Ms. Meeker?
No.
Ms. Minot?
No.
Ms. Sadowski?
yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
And I am a no.
Jess, did you vote? Okay, good.
Motion passes, I
Passes.
believe, 5-4. We are now on to the underlying motion, which is the Tier 2 reductions, which would total, after that change, $677,000 and some change. I estimated that. Is there further discussion on those positions and reductions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion passes. We are open for further amendments.
I would like to make a motion.
Ms. Minot.
I would like to remove position 69, the CHS art teacher.
Seconded.
Moved by Ms. Minot, seconded by Ms. Sadowski. Discussion.
Just in support of my motion, it's really important to me that we offer advanced classes in every discipline. I'm especially a big supporter of AP classes. And so I think in every field that one of our high school students choose to dedicate themselves to, there should be reliable advanced options for them to further their studies. And I don't think that by going down to 2 art teachers at the high school, we will be able to offer that level of course offerings in a reliable manner, even if we had a good amount of interest from our students. So for that reason, I think it's important to add that position back in.
Ms. Higgins.
I also think it's a position that we can effectively market to students from other communities. Let's start with all of our CRTC students who might be in our building anyway, that we offer AP Art, which a lot of people might not know. And with open enrollment, that could be, our course offerings could be a huge marketing tool for us as a district. So this would keep that consistent.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. We are open for further amendments.
I can keep going.
I was going to say.
Right.
Because
See, Brenda wanted to do
Brenda, do you want to do yours?
You want to do your FT?
Or someone else will.
Or do you want me to do it?
If I was in a group project, I'd want to be on your
Which number is that, do you know?
It's number 19.
I would like to move that we pull item 19 from Tier 1.
second.
So, just to clarify, you want to
I want to reinstate the position
reinstate the
Time
half-time
teacher.
music position at Broken Ground.
for equity reasons. Well, I can explain it after if you want.
Second by Ms. Higgins. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I believe that pulling that position would put Broken Ground at a disadvantage to the other elementary schools in the city who would be able to offer strings and music instrument lessons, and that school wouldn't. The reason they need the extra position, my understanding, is due to the number of classes that are in the school. So you couldn't have a music teacher teaching the classes and offering the strings, which you are able to do in the other elementary schools.
In part because the elementary schools
Have fewer-
have kids that are in the younger grades that
Right,
aren't taking
and fewer classes.
instruments.
Yep,
So,
exactly. So that would be my reasoning for that.
Ms. Higgins.
My support of this also goes to the fact that sometimes it's music, art, theater, sports, clubs and things like this that keep kids engaged. And the kids that miss out the most are the ones that can't afford these things. Concord as a district is known statewide for the music opportunities we offer our children. Music lessons, not common at all in elementary schools and other districts. And you look at the robust program at the middle school and high school and the number of our students that go on to do amazing things in the arts. And this is a logical thing to keep in my mind. That's more emotional than.
Further discussion?
For me, it's also a high value for the money. It's not a lot of money for a high positive value for our students.
Yeah, go to the music school. That's good point.
Agreed.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. We are open for further motions. Ms. Meeker?
Revisiting the earlier reduction in permanent substitutes via vacancies, I move that we increase the expenditure for call-in substitutes, which is line item 612002, by $40,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Higgins. Further discussion?
This is just so that for, on the record, because we are reducing permanent substitutes in the district, we need to make sure that we have a robust budget for call-in subs, so this just accommodates that need.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We are open for further motions.
Before we go to another motion, can I ask a question?
Sure.
About how the district has been viewing the tuition rates for regular day preschool. Is there anything you mentioned that you may be working on rate increases? I wanted to give you a chance to talk about that.
We are working on rate increases. To say that I have the set amount right now, I don't. There is a team that was working on a proposed formula. I would have that tomorrow, though.
Okay, great, thank you.
Do we need to vote on tier one?
They're
We
already
are-
included,
So that's already there,
included
okay.
in the
So
budget.
the only ones that aren't are tier 4 and 5.
No, tier
Four
four
is-
is,
In there.
4 is
four
as
is
well?
in there.
Okay, so just
and
5.
And we addressed,
We
We're going to talk about 5 tomorrow.
well, yeah,
Well, we added
we
some
already
of the
did
5.
some of 5 and, yeah.
Okay.
Ms. Meeker?
I move to reduce the venue payment to the Capital Center for the Arts as proposed by the district for a budget expenditure decrease of $20,000.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Campbell.
So you're voting to take that off the cut list?
Yeah, so
No,
I just.
put it back on the cut list.
Put it back on the cut list. So I just wanted to bring this up because I feel that it was something that was brought to the district very briefly, and we didn't really, as I'm reflecting on it, we didn't really sit with it very long before we said we don't want to deal with this, because of course we want to encourage arts and music, and we want to make sure parents aren't overpaying in fees and tickets. But I wanted to just bring it back to the table to open it up for discussion again so that we're clear on what the proposal was, so that if there is an opportunity for a reduction here, we can act on it.
What specifically is the money used for?
So let me,
Or where does it go?
let me pull that up for you right now. I plopped it in one of your folders, so just let me grab that real quick, and then I also have some more information for you.
Thank you.
In response to that, and I'll, let me just grab it.
I did.
So right now, it provides tickets for daytime Lincoln, they call it the Lincoln Financial Education Series performances for students in K1, 2, and 3. And the value of that is about $8,000. And then they have 5 reserved evenings that's used at their main place, and that is valued at what is that? $3,500, and that's for the performances for the high school and I think middle school. And then there's
Performances students go to see?
No.
that they're sold to the community where they'll put on their performance there, the high school.
The orchestra and the band concert?
Yeah, you know how they see the U-Hauls and then they load all the stuff up and go over there. And then they have a value for the equipment that they do, and they also use $4,500 to offset hard costs for rental, any performances that they use. So it's about $45,000 in value, but we give them 20.
So we'd have to come up with, we'd have to pay for moving equipment, we'd have to pay, if we discontinued this connection, how would that okay, so we're saving a line item on a budget, but now what are we going to end up paying for these things?
So
Or
at
do we
least
no
in
longer?
discussions I've had, they probably would have to raise their ticket prices because that money goes into student activity, and student activity actually funds that rental. It's kind of self-funded in a sense. This helps mitigate that, but they're going to have to increase their fees in order to pay for it because now they'll have to pay for things that are not donated anymore.
So 12,000 pays for sort of the rental and the equipment and all the associated with that, and 8,000 pays for the kids to go see shows.
Yep.
And that the proposal that you forwarded us today is that the 8,000 would essentially be used for shows that go to the kids as opposed to them going to the Capitol.
Yeah, so the one that came by from Sal, and I didn't get a chance
Sal,
to.
who is the head of
Sal
the
Parisi,
Capitol
Parisi.
Executive
Center,
Director, I
the
apologize.
arts,
He just said he had an interesting idea as what, that was presented about a touring theater group that would go to each of the elementary schools rather than us paying for busing to bring the kids to the center. But that would be all part of the 20 grand in addition to the rental for CHS for their performances.
I feel like we're getting a lot of bang for our buck for that $20,000.
For sure. I think, I mean, I'm still curious why it came to us in the first place. Like, was there, you know, like it came as a proposal from the district? Was it just like, we got to find money somewhere, or was there a
It's
specific?
all it was, and
Okay.
it is something that came up 15 years ago and generated a lot of support to come out, and it was kept in. 15 years ago, it was 10 grand. It's now at 20. It was just looking at line items that are in the budget to say, revisit it, and what's the value to you? That's all.
And
It had nothing to do
originally
with.
started, I believe, because we had a local business that supplied the cost for that, right? Wasn't
Before
that
my time.
Lincoln, didn't?
Oh, and maybe that's why they call it the Lincoln Financial
I
Series.
think it is
before
because
my
they
time.
paid for it, but when they left the area, the district picked it up.
Well, they're still calling it the Lincoln, so they
Right.
must be subsidizing it
Yeah,
somehow.
because we're getting a lot more than $20,000 worth of services and such.
Quick question, and why do we, outside of like the performances they provide to do this, have we tried through the city audit, or is that not big enough?
No.
Yeah, it's a size and equipment thing, and plus we do have in our facility use agreement, the ability to use that, but I think that's limited on the number.
Yeah, the
of
stage at the
places.
Audi can't fit an orchestra or a band.
Yeah.
Or the
Wouldn't-
chorus.
Wouldn't fit the high school performing arts.
Thank you.
Further discussion?
Yeah, my only concern is if we get rid of that, that we end up paying as much or close to it in rental
For sure.
fees.
I'll be voting against my own.
Yeah,
motion.
I think it was worth discussing, and I'm hoping like when the new middle school building is done, like will that theater maybe be able to accommodate some of those venues, or
We did not build the
Yeah,
1,200
we
seat
reduced it.
auditorium that people wanted us to build for that purpose.
but
so
maybe the middle
not.
school concerts can be at the
Yes,
middle school,
yes,
or
yes,
you know,
yes,
like
yeah.
some of it.
All right. All those in favor?
No, just kidding.
All those opposed? No.
Yeah, I know.
Yay, nay, oh, yeah.
Any abstentions? Motion does not carry.
Thank you.
We are open for further motions.
I just want to share, Jack, can you go back to that? We did get the number this afternoon on the preschool tuition.
If you want to push this to tomorrow, that's fine. But
Okay. Hey, you know what? We'll push it to tomorrow.
Yeah.
Instead of,
it will be a robust discussion, I'm sure.
I'll make a motion that we put 4 of the 6 elementary classroom teacher positions that are currently eliminated in Tier 1 back into the budget.
Ms. Minot moves restoring 4 elementary school positions. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Boucher. Ms. Minot, would you like to speak to your motion?
So looking at the numbers, especially with the updated enrollment numbers, I think we're pushing some of the class sizes too high, including Abbott Downing's, what's now first grade, which will become second grade. They've had a few additional students move in. And this shows my overall concern with pushing the class sizes to the middle, towards the top of what is acceptable. Because if we just have a few students move in, then we're were really high. I also am not comfortable that we currently have 2 kindergarten classrooms at CMS that are 21, which is above what they should be. And the plan that includes these reductions says that if next year that happens again, we're just going to keep doing that. And I don't think that's fair to those students, especially in the K-1, 2 early grades.
Those are, the kindergarten I just wanted, are not real numbers.
Right.
Those are last year's numbers.
So those are this year's real numbers.
Those are this year's real numbers. If there is a surge, and that was a late surge, if we know based on enrollment, we could adjust that.
But not if we get rid of 6 teachers. We're going to have to hire 1 back.
Well, yes, but that's why the contingency is there.
I would rather keep some of the teachers we have now to give us that room and to be able to do that. I know this is the policy. I think the policy is outdated. I think our early elementary classroom sizes are too big, and I don't want to go further down that path to continue making them bigger.
Ms. Boucher?
I agree with you, and I agreed with it when the instructional committee and the policy, communications and policy committee brought that for a discussion. That did not pass because I, again, agree that as our class size policy 641 hasn't been revised since 1983. So that was something that several of us really wanted to work on. I think we asked the district to come to us with cost reductions, and this is a place that they still are within our own policy. I think that we should bring it back to instructional policy if we want to continue this, but this is one area where we can continue to cut so that, because they are within that policy. So do I agree with you that that we should have smaller class size? And I did try to do that. There were several of us who really worked on that, and I would love to see that continue, and so we can preserve more staff, teachers, especially at the elementary school level, for especially in those early years. And I think it's the best way that we can support kids who are higher needs and those who need more support. It's the one thing that we can do. But I think we need to return it to policy.
Ms. Meeker?
I would say, so this is now a little bit of a sidebar. Policy and instructional had a great meeting about the plan and the goal and the, sort of why we want, the data of why we want class sizes to be smaller. The district at the time did not have the bandwidth to produce an accurate report of how much that would increase cost in the district and what the logistics would be of needing classrooms, and they weren't there. So they asked for more time to prepare a report. Right after that, our superintendent fell ill, and it's been sort of just sitting since. So I don't want anyone to feel like it's been put in a drawer because we don't want to talk about it. I think we definitely are in a position now that we have a great new superintendent in place, and we've got motivated board members to revisit the issue, but we do need to ask the district to produce realistic numbers so that we can continue that conversation. So I just wanted to put that in the mix. I back to the motion, I again reiterate that we are still working, we are cutting and then putting things back in. And so I'm not really seeing any movement on this tax rate increase. I would maybe suggest that we table this until tomorrow when we can see what the updates from the Tier 2 changes, the additional approved cuts, and the additions that we've just approved to see. Because again, we haven't really discussed as a board what we think is palatable, reasonable, all of it's high. My personal goal is if we can get under 10, I'm feeling pretty dang good.
Is this a motion to table?
So therefore, I move to table the motion until tomorrow.
Is there a second? Was that a second, Ms. Campbell? Ms. Meeker moves to table Ms. Minot's motion until tomorrow. This is a non-debatable motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
No.
Any abstentions? Motion carries. This will be tabled till tomorrow. Dr. Herbert, one of the things that, if we were going to add back 4 positions, where would they go? And so if you would have that answer for tomorrow.
We could take a look at class sizes
Yep.
in the different schools and discuss where that would.
To be clear, I made my motion that way because I didn't want to be picking. It would be to the discretion of the superintendent
Right,
to
but
decide where they go.
part of me is, I would like to have a sense of, what would.
Right, because I do think there's an equity issue here. Like, we don't want to see really lopsided ratios, and none of us do.
Well, and I want to be clear that we've been presented with multiple options. Option 1 was not cutting any classroom positions, but there were positions being moved from one school to another to start to get at some of those equity issues. And so maintaining positions is one thing, but allocating resources where they're needed is a second thing.
We are open for further motions. Ms. Meeker.
Sorry, guys. I move that we reduce both the projected revenue and expenditure line items for open enrollment to $1.
Seconded.
Tell
Discussion.
the folks at home what that means.
It means that open enrollment is currently up for debate in the legislature. Changes are coming. We understand that. We are required by law to have a budget line item for open enrollment should we need to move on that. But since we don't have any current policy and we don't know what next year will bring, I would like to make sure that that line item exists with the bare minimum as a placeholder.
Are we able to adjust that throughout the fiscal year if we need to, or is it set
Just a
until next
placeholder
year?
right now, I think.
Yeah, it just creates the budget line item should an open enrollment become a reality for us.
Well, there already is one in the draft budget. You're changing it from
Right.
the amount that
Currently,
it is
it's
now to $1.
allocated for 50,000,
Yeah.
50,000 in, 50,000 out as a wash. I'm just saying, why don't we just make that a single dollar?
Yeah.
We will need to, before we finish this year, unless the legislature acts first, have a policy on open enrollment that we will need to hold a public hearing on. So
For next school year?
for next school year, so that will happen after the budget. This is, a placeholder, but also, who knows what's going to happen next week in the legislature? This week? Is it this week? Or
This
next
Wednesday.
Yep, so we will, it's hard to act with that without really
Next
good
Wednesday.
information,
Right.
so. We haven't voted on your motion yet.
Nope.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We are open for further motions. Ms. Meeker.
I move that we direct the district administration to schedule and post all required meetings and notices necessary to prepare for placing on the November 2026 ballot a question to the citizens of Concord regarding the sale of district-owned property located at 38 Liberty Street,
Which is this building?
which is the building.
Moved by Ms. Meeker, second by Ms. Higgins. Discussion?
I'll just speak to the motion. We know that during these budget deliberations, there's no stone unturned. We've talked a lot about property. We've talked about what it might look like to move administrative offices over to the high school. That is, just not something that's feasible this year. So what this does is it just asks the citizens of Concord what they think. It's our newly modified charter, so it's just a process issue. From my perspective, we're just here to ask the question. This ballot question could come up anytime between now and probably September where we could still fit it in. But I do think that it is in the context of our bigger conversations around how we are reshaping our district to match our financial realities.
I think it just makes a lot of sense to know what our options are with this building before we invest time and resources in starting to move staff out of this building. It just makes sense because we have to go through the ballot process to know whether selling this building is an option to us or not before we make further plans or moves.
Agreed.
Any further discussion? I'm going to ask for a roll call on this because it's a charter amendment. Ms. Boucher, will you call the roll?
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Du Bois?
Yes.
Ms. Hastings?
Yes.
Ms. Higgins?
Yes.
Ms. Meeker?
Yes.
Ms. Minot?
Yes.
Ms. Sadowski?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Carries unanimously. We are open for further amendments. Go ahead, Ms. Meeker.
I know.
I'm gonna be on her.
I move that we direct the district administration to schedule and post all required meetings and notices necessary to prepare for placing on the November 2026 ballot a question to the citizens of Concord regarding the sale of district-owned property located at 11 Curtisville Road.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Meeker, seconded by Ms. Campbell. Is there discussion?
Speaking to my motion, because we're talking about our assets. We're talking about what we can do with our assets. We're talking about that we no longer have a school planned for the Broken Ground site. We have a lot of acreage there that is valuable. I'm not saying I know quite how many acres we should sell or what we should do with it, but it's time to ask the citizens of Concord if we should sell at least some portion of that land, greater than an acre, which is required by the charter.
I absolutely concur, and why sit on this asset? We should see what the citizens would like us to do, and it has to start with asking for permission to sell it. So thank you, Kara.
I agree, and I want to say, like, we don't have a plan for that property anymore. And if we're not going to build a school on it, we want to know what the people of Concord want us to do with it.
Great. And I think selling these properties, in addition to reducing some operating costs, because they both have to be maintained and insured and all of that fun stuff, could help us rebuild our reserves, offset the cost of the middle school, provide some additional financial well-being for the city of Concord.
Would we also need to do a vote on what the purpose of the property would be? Would it be a commercial property or homes?
That's
or-
governed by city zoning. We have nothing to do with
All
city
right.
zoning.
And my understanding of the requirement that passed is that we have to ask permission to sell it,
Yeah.
and that's what we would do.
Can we do a roll call vote on this? Any further discussion? Ms. Boucher, will you call the roll?
Ms. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Du Bois?
Yes.
Ms. Hastings?
Yes.
Ms. Higgins?
Yes.
Ms. Meeker?
Yep.
Ms. Minot?
Yes.
Ms. Sadowski?
Abstaining a butter.
Oh, sweet.
Don't love it, guys.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion carries.
All right. Motion carries 8 with 1 abstention. We are open for further amendments. Does anyone have anything else? Okay. Seeing none,
Wait, did you ask the rental fees?
Oh my gosh, I have another motion.
I'm very invested in your motions. You have 2 more, just so you know. Do you want me to read your motion? I would have.
You go.
Number 6 has legal trouble.
Right, so
Okay.
we're not bringing 6, number 7.
Okay.
I move that we direct the district to increase revenue projection for rental fees, which is line item 519100, to 42% over the previous fiscal year, and adjust rental fees accordingly for a budget revenue increase of $10,000.
Second.
would you like to speak to your motion?
I surely would. So Jack already beat us to the punch with this great idea for increasing revenue from rental fees. So he already put a 30% increase in the budget. I think we can do better. I'm not sure. So I wanted to at least bring the motion so that Jack can tell me what his reasoning was for the 30% increase, because there's the total amount. So we're not sure if you're projecting out that we're just renting out our facilities more, or if you were hoping for us to revisit the policy and increase rates, or a combination of both.
It's a twofer. So part of it is hopefully the increase in the rental rate. Utilization. But the other thing, the second phase was increasing the rates based on what we're seeing. So we have that. Tomorrow night I'll have a number for you on if we took year to date what we've done and these new rates were in place, what that would be. So we've done.
So you're saying you'll
both
have
ways.
more information for
Yep.
us tomorrow?
Yeah. I have what we're proposing the rates to be. That's done. I just want a realistic, now if we plug them in, because there's significant increases in
Right.
those rates.
Would you move?
I move to table my motion until tomorrow.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Campbell. All those in favor of tabling this motion until tomorrow?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So for tabled motions for tomorrow, we have the permanent substitutes. We have the elementary school teachers. We have preschool, and we have facility rental fees. Is that?
So we never brought a motion.
Never brought a motion on, but we're going to discuss preschool rates tomorrow anyway. Is there anything else that folks would like information on for tomorrow? Mr. Dunn, if you could calculate all the different things. And
Yep, could I just give it, so if I take off the permanent subs, so you did not cut those, so
Well,
you
we cut
tabled that?
three
The
of them.
three
Right,
vacancies.
okay.
3 vacancies.
Okay, I have those. If I do everything just personnel-wise, I think I've captured it all. You're down another 323,000. Based on your adds and
Yeah.
subtracts. From your posted budget on the 9th, which was 4,034,000, you're now at 4,357,000.
And that's just on the personnel, so not any of the other.
Correct.
which-
Now, if you add back the elementary, you're gonna be 130 more. So, just so you have an idea where you're at.
But if you added 3, you'd essentially be neutral.
You could be. We will, yeah, I can,
Budget
some
ballet.
numbers.
I know.
But-
I laugh so I don't cry. Okay.
I move to adjourn.
Ms. Boucher moves to adjourn. Ms.
Beat me,
Higgins,
that's what I was
seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. See you all at 5:30 tomorrow night.